we talked about those generational shifts that are coming and how important it is that we're understanding the adult and who we're actually trying to educate nowadays. And we're all in the world of communications and trying to get people, no matter how you look at it, right? What we're trying to do constantly is communicate with our members to help to educate them in some way. So I think it's really important we understand these changes of educational models. So hello, Mark.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. It's good to actually meet you.
You as well. Let me ask you something. Did any of you in high school read Lord of the Flies? Do you remember the book? Okay, it's one that bypassed me, and not too long ago I saw it sitting on the shelf at home. So I decided to pick it up and thought I would finally read it. I opened it up, started a few pages, and then I thought, I wonder if this thing's available for download. So I found it. It's public domain, downloaded, digital. So I put it on the iPad and put it on the iPhone. And over the next few days, I read the book in 3 different devices. I read on the iPad, and then while that was charging, I switched to the iPhone. And then at night, when the light was a little bothersome to my wife, I switched to the book. The only problem I had was that the book didn't sync, and so I had to manually move the bookmark. And so that was the only problem I ran into. I was looking at an article the other day about music, and it made mention of the band Coldplay, and it was hyperlinked. So I clicked on that. Found out that they were founded in 1996 in London, and it started talking about indie bands and alt-rock, and I clicked on that, and I started reading that article, and I saw something that mentioned Death Cab for Cutie, an indie band. So I clicked on that. I thought, where did the name come from? I didn't know. The name came from a song that was sung in the Beatles movie Magical Mystery Tour, and it was sung by the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. And a member of the band was Neil Innes. Now, Neil Innes is like good friends with the Monty Python troupe. And I read that he appeared in the tribute concert for George Harrison that was held as a memorial year after he passed away in 2002. And he performed there, and it was held in the Royal Albert Hall. Royal Albert Hall was named for Prince Albert, who was Queen Victoria's prince consort. She ascended to the throne in 1837 when William IV passed away. And she was queen until 1901. That's the year Teddy Roosevelt became president, I learned. And Teddy Roosevelt, well, the teddy bear is named after him. And you kind of see where I'm going? It just went on and on. I finally closed the 44 tabs that I had open, and I finished reading the first paragraph that I started with about music. The other day, my son was telling me he drives an old 1997 Honda Accord wagon, and we took it into the shop, and the mechanic said, one of the things that needs to be fixed maybe on your next visit is it needs a distributor O-ring. And it put a price tag on there. I think it was probably close to $300. Well, what did I do? I went to YouTube. Wasn't that what everybody does? I went to YouTube and looked up 1997 Honda Accord distributor O-ring replacement. There were probably about 4 or 5 videos of varying lengths, so I started with the shortest one and watched that. Then I watched the second one. Then I watched the third one. By that time, I thought, I think I've got this. So I went to the store, bought an O-ring, and in about 15 minutes did the job. Done. And it saved me about $300. So, what does all this have to do with learning? Are my slides up here? They are. Let's see what we can do here. Trying to move ahead. There we go. Okay. The principles for adult learning, they were established long ago, and I think they're all probably pretty familiar to most of you at least. We're self-directed. So when I decided I wanted to read Lord of the Rings, that was my choosing. It wasn't a high school assignment. I decided I wanted to pick up the book and read it. We like to learn by doing. We decide what we want to learn when we want to learn it. So when I needed to find out how to fix the car, I was motivated to do it. Problem-based, that's what I was trying to solve. So I just did that. This is the way we all do this. All the stories, you were nodding your heads because you've been there too. This is the way adults learn. It's different from pedagogy, which was when we were in school and the teacher controlled everything and told us what we were going to learn and when we were learn it, when we were going to read Lord of the Rings and when we were going to discuss, not Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Flies. But you get the idea. So it's a different experience for adult learners, and that's really what we're driving at. You don't press a button and people learn. It just doesn't happen that way. Learning requires commitment. You have to be involved in it. It's not going to happen automatically. Now, you've probably seen this kind of diagram before. The movement, the continuum from data to information, knowledge, and eventually wisdom. But the thing that always gets left off on the end here is transformation. Now, what does that really mean? Transformative learning is when you do something different because of what you learned. People have said that wisdom is knowledge tempered by experience. That's great. You are wise. You know it. But are you doing anything differently because of it? That's what you're trying to get to. You are changing because of the learning experience you have. You bring it back to the office. You go to a conference and you pick up something and you take it back and you implement it. That's the really great kind of learning that we're striving for with sessions. You know, we all go to conferences, and doesn't everybody sit in the back because you're sizing up the experience, trying to decide, am I going to stay in this thing or not? Are they going to tell me anything that I need to know? And you size it up in about 2 minutes, and then you start tweeting each other, and somebody else says, hey, there's a great session going on in 2:20. So everybody scrambles out of the room. It's us. We're adults. We're impatient, but we're looking for that transformative learning experience. Do you remember the movie A Few Good Men? Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. And you remember that scene where Tom Cruise's character is at breakfast with Nicholson's character, Colonel Jessup, and Tom Cruise is trying to get the transfer orders from him, and they're having this sort of battle of will, and Jack Nicholson says, I eat breakfast 300 yards from 4,000 Cubans who are trained to kill me, so don't think you can come down here, flash a badge, and make me nervous. How many Jack Nicholsons have been to your conferences? He or she comes in and says, I've been in the association business for 5, 10, 15 years. I've seen it all, done it all. Teach me. You know, not to say everybody's like that, but a lot of us are. A lot of us are like that, saying, teach me. Well, it's not going to happen. Learning is what you do. Learning is how you investment. And like Albert Einstein said, I never teach my students. I only provide the conditions in which they can learn. So today's about innovation. Where does the innovation come into learning? Well, it comes from a couple things. Certainly the way we approach it at ASAE, I think if I was going to encapsulate it, I would say it's perspiration and inspiration, and that yields experimentation. But it's not innovation unless it works and it makes something better. If it doesn't work, it was an experiment. It falls flat. And hopefully, if you make a mistake, you learn from it. So fail smartly. Learn from what you tried. And if it didn't work, that's okay, as long as you get a lesson from it. If it does work, then it's innovative. You actually innovate around the periphery. If you have something that's working well, it's always good to be thinking about what's next. What are you going to do to change it up? Keep it fresh, keep it new. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Take about 10% of what it is, whether it's your face-to-face or your online offering, and think about how you can change it up. Now, here's an example. The architect Frank Gehry, years and years ago, won the contract to build the Disney Concert Hall in LA. And I watched a documentary where he was talking about the process, and he said, I started off by talking to the acoustical engineers, and they told me that the ideal acoustical environment is a box. Well, he doesn't make plain boxes. So he came up with this design, working with the engineers, and saying, okay, I have to keep the box, but what can I do with it to keep the sound there? This is what we deal with in education. We're in a box right now. I know those of you online probably can't really see it, but we're in a rectangular box here. And they've done wonderful things with the space. Comfortable seating up here, round tables with tablecloths in the back. It's great. It's a fun way to use this, and it changes up the experience, doesn't it? You walked in here and thought, this is cool. This is really different. Instead of the fluorescent lights overhead, we have table lamps. It's great. It changes it, but you're still within the box, so you're looking for ways to innovate. And that also applies to online, because really there isn't a distinction between face-to-face and online learning. We keep talking about how it's blending. It was always there, because really there's a box, but it's a triangular box. You can either meet same place, same time, which is where we are. You can either meet different places, same time, which is where you are, or you can meet different places, different times, and that's when you're accessing the recording of this event. That's the box. It's triangular. So how do you innovate within those confines? That's the challenge. That's what you're looking for. You're trying to find different ways to do it. Where does it come into our meetings? Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I would have to say that it is operationalized, at least in our learning team. We look at every meeting and say, what are we going to do that's new? What's going to be different? And sometimes there are things that you have to do, but you try to find different ways to go at them. For example, at our annual meeting, we always acknowledge our board of directors. It's a given. Anybody with associations knows that. They are the drivers. So what do you do? Well, we have done songs, we've done raps, we've done poems, we've done all kinds of things to make it fun for the audience and for the board of directors to know that they're getting recognized, but to change it up, make it different, make it fresh each time. We've been doing the Springtime Expo for years, and we actually will sit down because we've gotten evaluations that have said, you know, how was the experience? And folks have said, it was good. It was springtime. They're not saying it was great. They're saying it's good. I've been coming for years. That's what I expect. It's springtime. So we have actually had meetings. We've had consultants come in to help us think about what can we do with it. So we've had lunch on the expo floor. We've had lunch separately. We've had speakers at lunch. We've put education in the morning. We've put one bank of education sessions at the end of the day. Keep playing with it. This year, just a couple weeks ago, we did our association law conference, and we moved the government relations conference side by side and did them together just to try it up, mix it up a little bit, and have common sessions. And you've done co-locations too, I know. So it's finding ways to think about what you can do differently. The other thing that we have, and if you don't have one, I don't know if it would work in your associations, but we've got an incubator. It's called our Great Ideas Conference. And the whole thing came about because everyone was walking around saying, hey, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. And then we said, why don't we have a conference where everybody shares their great ideas? And that's where we try out new stuff. And it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. When it works, it's an innovation. The thing that we're all working against is that time is a precious resource. We all have only 24 hours in our day. It's what we're up against all the time. That's why we've become such strong guardians of our minutes in our day. When we are channel surfing, we watch that show for 10 seconds and decide, are we going to watch it or not? It's not worth my time. Pick up a book, you read a couple pages and say, no. You know, you go to sessions, you go to meetings, whatever. You listen to a speaker and you pretty much decide in about, 2-3 minutes, am I going to pay attention or is it time to check email? That's what happens. Time is a resource and we're just conditioned to look for the value. And the value is really where you combine content and the experience. And if you put them together and there's a reward there, then people are going to see what the value is. So that's what drives the innovation. Where can we maximize the most value? You'll find on our website, we've taken the principles of adult learning and we put them up there as our principles of learning. And it pretty much explains what I've been talking about today. We're trying to support people, challenge them, surprise and delight them. It's really what it's all about. We're trying to make the learning experiences as engaging as we possibly can. The one thing I would leave you with, I think the most critical skill that we all need to develop is learning how to learn. And by that, I mean it's not just going to different learning experiences. It's how much you are investing in your learning. And if you can put yourself in the mindset of the learners, think of them as your customers. What are you doing to provide that value to them when they come to your educational experience? So what are you going to do to make it interesting? That's really what it all comes down to. Learning how to learn also translates into your workforce when you're working with your teams. Somebody who knows what this means is the person you can say, hey, I've got a task for you. I'm sorry, I can't explain all the specifics. I'm giving it to you. You have to figure out how the software works. Good luck. And off you go. The person who knows how to learn can figure out, I need to know this. What's the best way I can do it? So that's the really critical skill that I think that people need to have today. But that's the thinking that goes into what we're trying to do all the time. And I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you.